Hello.
Hello, Sarita.
Hey, lovely to meet you.
Lovely, lovely, lovely to meet you as well. Thank you. Thank you for making time to talk.
No
Um,
worries.
yeah, I'm in my blue room. So
Yeah, it's just a fuzzy haze of blue. I don't know if I should do the background. Oops. What's
I
going
did
on?
it. I did it and I can't figure out how not to do it.
Oh,
So that's the power of technology. But there we have it, a blue haze behind me. And as I was sitting here, I could feel your energy coming in. And it was just so beautiful. I think blue, there's something with the blue, I think, with us. So fellow Brits, maybe that's what it is. I don't know.
perhaps it is. So where are you based again?
Right. So I'm 45 minutes northwest of Bordeaux.
Okay.
So
All
I'm
right.
just
Yeah.
before, the estuary. I'm just before the estuary that comes in, the inlet.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, so that's where I am. So it's nice. Not far from the coast either, like 35 minutes.
Oh, that's lovely. And how long have you been
Mm.
out here?
I've been here full time since 2017. Yeah.
Okay.
But we
Yeah.
bought the house in 2007. What about you?
I think we bought our house in 2007 as well. But we've been here since then. Is that, I mean, like four, five, yeah, that's about right. Yeah, 2007, I think it was.
Wow.
So, yeah, and so what? I didn't quite understand, and I've been really, it's been a bit mental since the Pam thing. I've literally thousands of emails to deal with, but so you've got like an actual community or an online community or a mixture, or what's going on?
Yeah, no, I have a beautiful online community called the Astara community, and that's connected to Lara Star, who runs a page, Astral Projections, I think it's called. And I have a local community. Now, my community are mostly French.
Yeah,
So it's a small commune. So it's mostly those and some Brits thrown in. But my online community, I mean, as you know, with COVID and lockdown and everything,
yeah.
that was so important. So you know what, I follow Pam, and so it's noteworthy that she had a conversation with you, and so I introduced the idea to our community, and they were like, "Please, please talk to Sarita." But with my intention is to bring the angle of what brought you to that retreat and healing space and the eight, which I've been practicing, by the way, which we'll get into at the end because I do want people to understand the end part of this. But at the beginning, I wanted to just really ask you about your journey. I mean, it seems like you're from England. So how did this all start for you? What you're currently doing?
Um, Well, it's, I was thinking about this before we came online. I was thinking, how do I describe myself? And I was like, I don't really know. I guess it started from when I was really small. You know, I had some experiences. The most noteworthy, if you like, was that I levitated when I was about three. I was looking into a tree. I wanted to be in the tree. I can't remember why. I might have been trying to, I think I was trying to reach some fruit in the tree. Anyway, I levitated. My brother saw me levitate, seemed normal to me at the time. And I had sort of these experiences. I could hear people's thoughts, verbatim, word for word. There was a lot of, I was always talking to fairies in the garden, and my mum was, she never sort of stopped me doing any of that kind of stuff.
Hmm.
And I think I was kind of always on this trajectory, but I had other things that I really wanted. So what I remember is I spent the first part of my life waiting to meet my partner, looking for him everywhere. And I met him when I was 19. I'm still with him now. And it was a boom. Oh, there's my husband moment. And so I think I was waiting for that. Then I really wanted to have children, and that's all like busy and everything. And and in amongst all of that stuff, I've had quite a strange upbringing, really. And I think that's what's helped me on my healing path. So, my dad was from Mexico, my mum was from England. My dad was very wealthy, my mum was very poor. My dad's been married three times, the children from each marriage. My mum's been married twice. So I've experienced like a lot of different eclectic cultures, a lot of emotional trauma and shock, and different things weaving through my body. I got cancer when I was 30. I had a little baby and a 2-year-old, and just I had weird things happen to me on my honeymoon. The buildings started to move. We were in Egypt. And all of this stuff kind of was freaky and scary. And if that stuff happened to me, well, actually, those walls do actually move now, but I find it all interesting and amazing. But what I'm trying to say is I had sort of series of illnesses from all the trauma and loads of different experiences coming in and through my life, so that now, as I'm on the path of assisting people to become healers, actually, that's my latest path, really, and to heal themselves. It's almost like I have all of these different people weaving into my life, and they go, I've got this. And I go, yeah, I've had that. I've had that. I've had that. I've been, and I can really empathize with a lot of people. And it's been a real journey to not hold all of that in my own energy field. And one of the pivotal moments, I think I think I was quite young. I think I was about 12 or 13. And I remember being in my bed and being very scared about something. And I put a blue bubble around myself. And I don't know where that came from. I hadn't been particularly reading about anything like this, but I immediately felt completely different. And it was so noteworthy that it really kind of sunk into me, it really landed with me. And long before the eights appeared in something that I was taught, I was weaving eights through my energy centers. I was an insomniac from when I was 3. So, or what I remember as being through very, very tiny, and didn't really tell anyone, and was always tired and was always alone all night long in the dark. And I now know that that's from trauma and being a very highly sensitive person. But that left me long nights of fear, which eventually I conquered through various practices. So, having met my husband, I was then very immersed in my children, because the thing I wanted to do after I met my partner was I just so wanted to be a mum. I really wanted to be a mother. And I've got 2 beautiful boys, they're adults now. And so I did all of that. And as somewhere in there, I hit 40, had a midlife crisis, as many of us do. And it was because what I'd been doing for many, many years is not being in my truth. I'd been holding all this sadness, all of this trauma. I'd found ways to function through it and keep going within the mainstream criteria of reality. And I don't even have to label
That's a great way to put it.
Yes. But I was holding this real sadness within me. I suppose I could trace it back to my parents separating and different things going on. But actually, what I realize now is I was holding this sadness because I wasn't in my soul's purpose, particularly. And I now know that when you hold, if you like, lies within the body vessel, what happens is they rub against you. They become an irritant, and eventually they turn into disease, and then they sort of flash at you. And that's how I'd got my cancer. I'd got glandular fever, then ME, then cancer, amongst, so many other things I can't even tell you. And so when I had my midlife crisis, somehow, just by accident, I wound up on this course, shamanic course. Never heard of shamanism, didn't know what the course was about. And when the lights went down and the teachers called in spirits, the elementals, I could suddenly see everything in the dark. And I had this real, wow. I'm home. I'm home. And that had me hooked. And I never wanted to be a teacher, never thought about it. I was just there because I was having a midlife crisis. And I literally just didn't know. Everything in my life was blowing up. I just had realized I was deeply unhappy. I didn't know what to do. I mean, I love my husband, love my children, but things were they just felt really wrong for me. And it wasn't harmonious. There's love, but like most people who are unconscious, there's not harmony when you're trying to live and survive and work and make money and feed the children and love the children, and you're projecting everything and your partner's projecting everything back, and everyone's, to So it wasn't harmonious, which is how I
Right.
expected it to be, when I was 11 dreaming about it. And so the
Mm.
lights came down and I've been having a midlife crisis and I suddenly knew I was in exactly the right place. And so that started me on a journey of learning about shamanism. And I learned a lot through the course, an awful lot, which think I did the course for on and off for 7 years, different courses. But at the
Mm-hmm.
same time, I then started to explore core shamanism, online, and I started to teach myself more things.
Mm.
And as so, so then what happened is I somewhere in the middle of that course, I just wanted people to meditate with. So I tried to find some locals to meditate with me, and they didn't know anything. So I started to just teach them what I knew. And one of them said to me, "Oh, can you can you record your meditation and put it on YouTube so I can listen to it during the week?" And I was like, "What's YouTube?" So anyway, I went after a bit. I was like, well, I don't want to be on here. I don't understand this place. But anyway, I put up a meditation on YouTube, and then lots of other people started to listen to my meditations, and it just sort of took off. And I started to simultaneously run ceremony once a month in my barn. We bought this house. We'd sort of My husband and I'd sort of thought about opening a retreat center, not that I would teach in it, just for other people to come
Mm-hmm.
and host retreats. But it was our home. We didn't have any external space. And then having gone and studied, I came back one day and I just said, look, this place is bigger. The bathrooms are better. My husband's a builder and a carpenter and a landscaper, and he's a creator of sacred spaces, I now know. But at the time, he was just renovating the house. And I was like, our house is nicer than the one that I've been in, where, we're all squished together in a bathroom that's minute with mold and taps that don't work and everything. And I was like, oh, that's much nicer than this. We could host a retreat here. So I got one of my shamanic friends. She came and hosted a retreat, and we just sort of started. And when I finally left, my training, I can't remember sort of what happened, but the COVID thing sort of hit
Mm-hmm.
simultaneously to me kind of leaving. And I decided, a friend of mine told me to offer meditations because people would need to meditate through the stress.
Mm-hmm.
And so I did, and a lot of people signed up. And suddenly I was teaching meditation every single day for like 6.
Wow.
And it was quite a thing to hold because I was holding a lot of fear, but I was loving it. And I started to get all of these, what I now consider to be downloads from source consciousness.
Mm-hmm.
I have never channeled in the sense that I connect to another being, although I have connected to beings, but I don't channel their messages necessarily.
Mm-hmm. I hear you.
Yeah. So I was receiving this information, and what would happen is if I didn't get it out on a video, it would like plague me. It was like it had to be like, yeah, and then
It had to be released. Yeah.
it had to be released. So then I had to conquer all of my fear of speaking my truth and all that kind of stuff. And I think one of my first energy centers to really clear was my throat,
Wow.
because
Wow,
I'm
wow,
still going through
wow.
the processes, and I'm
Yeah.
still like all of us. I don't know what's going on. I don't really know what the truth is. I know what my truth is, whatever. But I really, my throat center cleared, and so
You have a very powerful voice. It projects.
I'm
Yeah.
deaf in one ear. That's probably why.
Well, I'm not, and I can tell you it's powerful. That's what I how I would rephrase it.
Thank
But let me
you.
ask you a couple of questions. There's a lot to unpack there, right? And
Yeah, I'm sorry. I thought I'd just give you the
I
life
don't want
history.
to tiptoe over everything. I want to go back to your a lot of us experience this almost otherworldly childhood. It seems to be a commonality amongst us
Yeah.
that we have a sense that not all is as it should be, and we have this kind of sense of almost being incubated. Like we are privy to this inner world. We see things, hear things, do things. And if we have a nice family, I think, I mean, I know that you spoke about trauma. I think all of us are deeply traumatized on some level. But at least if you have a family that doesn't interfere in that process and shame you, would you say that was for you? Did you have
Oh no,
that
I
kind of
wasn't ashamed
support,
at all.
allowance?
Yeah, I wasn't
Mm-hmm.
ashamed at all.
So you
And
were free.
both of my parents loved me. I was very,
Yeah.
very lucky. Um, I was brought up by a single mum, and my mum was just adoring and lovely and wonderful. And she really, well, she thought it was my imagination, but I knew it wasn't.
They're
But
real.
yeah, so she really encouraged me with that.
And what about your siblings? Is there any of that in your siblings?
Yeah, my brother is deeply, so my natural brother is deeply spiritual as well.
Hmm.
So, and he's only 13 months younger than me. So I could always have these conversations. And we never spoke about the levitation, actually. And on my wedding day, he came up and he whispered to me in my ear and he said, I saw you that day in the garden. And it was my best wedding present because it was one other human validating
Yeah, a
something
witness.
that I knew. It was a witness.
Yeah. I think a lot of us have levitation experiences when we astral travel, and we immediately it's like telepathy. You say, "Oh, that's how it is at home." Yeah, we levitate. We're telepathic. Being down here can sometimes feel quite slow and clunky and mechanical, and just flowing in that environment, I think, is the challenge for folks like us and the community that I'm a part of. Many people identify with that. I am intrigued about, first of all, two things: finding your husband. What what kind of contract did you think that you had, or do you think that you have with your husband as a partner,
Well, I
divine?
now know. I mean, so basically, my husband just loves building beautiful spaces, and he's so in touch with his garden. And
Mhm.
his spiritual road is very different from mine. But so what I now know in hindsight is that we were destined to be here. And if you ever come to this retreat center, it
Mhm.
is literally like a Garden of Eden. And when we got here, there wasn't one flower in the garden. There were some trees and a couple of bushes, but really it was very, very sparse. And it's like an oasis now, and it's magical. And people say, God, I've never seen so many species of flowers. And you walk around, and it is like being in a Garden of Eden. It's got this just beautiful energy. And when I first got here, I immediately wanted to build a stone circle. And my husband's just like, what, darling? And I'm like, can you go and get me some rocks? But I want this to be really massive. And, and he's always just he's just extraordinary. And he often says to me, this makes me want to weep, but he often says to me, this is all for you. There's some really
Mm.
deep love. And he's very reclusive.
Mm.
And so he's built this extraordinary space, and I now fill it with people. And he's actually really enjoying the people because they come here, they're very self contained and sovereign, or they want
Mm.
to be at least.
Mm.
And
Mhm.
they wander around his garden and just talk to him about plants, and they just love it so much. And he feels this kind of loving appreciation for what he's created. So I feel like I feel like the contract was to come together and make sacred space and bring people into it so that they
Yeah.
could flower into themselves. But we've
Mhm.
had other contractual obligations along the way. So the children was a very strong pull for me. And for many, many years, I felt like I was raising spiritual warriors. And although I look back now and I go, gosh, I was such an unconscious parent. I think, parents, they think back on all the
Second
wrong
guess
things
all the time.
they've done.
Mhm.
But I really had this, I want my children, I really wanted to nurture them as spiritual warriors. And I hope I've done that. They're very independent. They don't necessarily believe or follow anything that I think. They're very much on their
They're
own road.
independent. Mhm.
Yeah. So there was that part of the contract. And also my husband and I have had some extremely difficult times. Extremely difficult. And I don't know how long we've been together now,
Can
30
can you
something years.
define, if you, without getting too personal, what you mean by that?
Well, yeah, I don't want to get too personal because it's not just my life that I'm explaining, but we really did nearly did separate at one
Right.
point.
Mhm.
And we were very much in our pain and our projections. He had his own
Yeah.
childhood trauma, and our projections and codependency and things like that.
Mhm.
And what's been the most extraordinary thing is being in a relationship this long and working through a relationship like that, and both of us coming to the realization that the work had to happen for each of us inside of ourselves. And once we both started to do that, the love is something, it's what I always imagined it would be when I was a little girl dreaming of my handsome prince.
Mm.
And
Wow.
sometimes, we wake up in the morning and, sometimes we cry. We're so happy to be with each other. And there's so much love. And when we project now, we notice in a couple of minutes and we know the other's projecting.
You're
And
aware of it.
we've become very conscious together. Okay, well, it's not, obviously it's still not perfect. We're still learning everything. But that's been an extraordinary journey. And it's shown me how relationally we all need to do our inner work and what can be achieved through that. And there is
I
so
hear you.
much peace in my home now because of that.
I think that a lot of people are experiencing right now because simply of the primed environment that we're in, where everything is being raised to the surface. A lot of us are realizing, yes, we have this divine partner, and I've got 22 years with my partner. I really know what you're saying. And there's been so many times where we've gone, we're just throwing the towel and this feels too toxic. There's the same dynamics, there's all this trauma, trigger, 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 trigger. And then it's like you get these golden moments, these epiphanies that come in, and you go, right, I get it now. I need to go away and heal that so that I don't present that wound for you, because they mirror each other a lot of the times, and it's just a call for healing, isn't it? These
It's a
divine
perfect
partnerships,
mirror. Yeah.
perfect mirror, the overlay. And my partner's a woman, so it's been, and I think that brings a different dimensionality to it. Like there's a different makeup to that, and because I've dated men too, so I mean everything today, if I'm hearing correctly and what I'm seeing online is relational. Everything feels to be relational. We're all doing this more and more, right? Connecting. So so that's your journey. It feels a bit Celestine prophecy to me when I close my eyes and think about your place. And I will come in if that's all right with you. I'd love to come and see you.
We'd
You're
love
not
to have you
you're
here.
you're a neighbor, so why wouldn't I? But there's an energetic pattern there. And I'm curious, what led you to that property? And is there a history and is there a ley line? Is there anything there that's connected?
Yes. Yeah. So I think I looked at it's so we moved to France, and my husband was doing up properties because he was a builder, and we moved to
Yeah.
France. We renovated our first property and we were there for 5 years and it was amazing. And then we started to look for the next one. And I looked at 60 houses. I had almost just given up. I have to tell you, and in the winter, it's really not fun in France.
No,
It's like
no,
sludgy and really freezing. And we had our wish list. My husband, because he's very spatially aware, and he's just got so he wanted at the end of the lane, in the middle of nowhere, so no one could see him, and he wanted at the end of the lane, and we wanted a view. I
Mhm.
can't remember what the wish list was. And so I was looking, and then one day I saw this. I'd really pretty much given up. I hope that we were ever going to find it. We were looking all over France as well. It wasn't like. So then I see this house in a window, and the photograph's so bad. And my friend goes, "Look, let's just go and see it. Anyway, we're not doing anything right now." So we're like, So anyway, so we come here and we start driving in, and obviously it looked very different than it looks like now.
Mm.
And I think I just knew within one moment. And I walked in and I was like, oh, I think this is the place.
Ooh,
Yeah. And it was actually, they say you fall in love with a house in 1 minute. It was actually the tile floor in the hallway.
I,
And then
I
I
like
just,
tiles too.
yeah, I
Yes.
don't know. There was like the ancient floor in one tiny part of the hall, but actually the back half of the house had burnt down years before, and they kind of half renovated in a sort of weird modern way. And the attic, it was just a kind of half burnt attic, and it wasn't anything like it is now. And there was like a big pine tree on the gravel drive right in front, so you couldn't see the view, but we sort of knew it was there.
Mm.
Anyway, so I called my husband. I said, I think I found the place. And he came round, and then he called his parents and he said, I think we found the place. And they came straight round as well. I don't know what the people here, but they've been here for 30 years, the people before, and had loads of children here, and it had been their family home. And we made an offer immediately, and
Mm.
and they accepted it. And 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 then the other thing that was very strange was that the husband really didn't want to leave this property, and he died 7 days before completion.
Oh, wow.
Which now you know about French inheritance, but other people
Mhm.
don't know this. He had about 7 children, and everybody said to us, "You'll never get the house in your lifetime. You just won't get it. Let alone in 3 months a month when you're supposed to exchange."
Mhm.
And we had by this point moved all of our stuff into their barn because they'd moved into our house. We had nowhere to live, and so we walked into the notaire's office thinking we might be able to rent it for 10 years while all the inheritance went through. And we had the most amazing notaire. And as we were sitting in the waiting room, the whole family trooped in. 2 packages arrived. They signed the whole thing, and then we walked in and bought the house. It was like, I mean, it was literally, that's a French.
Whoa, that's unheard of, everybody.
It's
Newsflash, that never
unheard of.
happens.
And then on top of that, as soon as I moved in, I had this desire to build a stone circle, and I hadn't started my shamanic training. And so I built the stone circle because that's my weird nature. And in the middle of the circle, I put 2 rocks, 2 giant rocks, not one. And when I thought about building it, I'd wanted to build one, but I put 2. And when I started my training and I walked the 8, I then understood why
That's
I
right.
had 2.
That's right. Yes.
And we
I've got
had
them in my garden now, just so you know,
Yeah,
Sarita.
exactly. And so since we've had
Yeah.
a lot of shamans here, a lot of psychics, a lot of seers, hundreds of people through here now. And they all say there is a sacred object on this land.
Ha.
And it is in the stone circle.
Get out of here.
So that's what they all say. And I can see it, but from
I can sense something, and I was
yeah, so
wondering
you
about the
sort
age of the
of see a
house.
shimmering dome around the circle. It's kind of interesting.
What's the age of the house? Oh, thank you. I've got a cup of tea coming.
I
This is
have
service for
absolutely
you.
no
Thank
idea.
you.
That's
Wow.
lovely.
Is it a stone house, or is it
Yeah, it's a
brick, or is
stone house, and it's on right on the top of a hill. So it will be associated with the chateau, which is on the next hill. So
Mhm.
it's going to be one of the older ones in the area.
Right,
So
right.
that's a husband question, I'm afraid.
Yeah, no, I do that as well. I deflect off to somebody
Yeah,
else. So my house was built in 1789, and it was built just after the revolution, and we bought it before we saw it. So we literally took a leap of faith. So my
yeah,
parents went to see this house and said, "Darling, you must buy this house. If you don't, we will." And I said, "Sold." And so we literally landed went straight to the notaire's. He was laughing his head off because the French are very sensible about property. It's
yeah,
like, "You've never seen it, and it's all in French, and you're signing." I said, "Yes."
yeah.
And exactly the same as you. And one day you will come to where I live, and you will sit with me on this hill, and you'll get it. You'll get it. We're the same. We're very similar. And I want to share right now. I think this is a really good moment to do this. I now have 2 stones in my garden that near my rose bush that I walk, I would say ceremoniously. I really do bring my consciousness to it. And I'm doing this with my hand in the figure of 8. And I don't want to lose this moment. I'd like you to explain that for people because it's a really simple technique and it's actually helping me. So
Okay. So
okay.
along my journey, I was taught this walking the 8 technique. And what you do is you put 2 rocks on the ground about a meter apart. You stand in the middle of them and you walk around the 2 rocks in a figure of 8,
Right.
holding an intention. There's a specific energetic setup where you connect the sun and the core or the heart of Mother Earth Gaia, the sun star or the stellar star and the earth star through 2 threads that run through what most people would call their pranic tube. So
Mm-hmm.
you make this energetic connection first. You set your intention for the walk, which can be anything. So you could walk to weave more happiness into your life, walk to manifest something, walk to heal something in your body, walk to have clarity over an issue. I mean, the list is just endless. And so you set your intention, and what you do is you walk between 2 rocks. And you walk for as long as you need to. Now, I would say walk for at least 12 or 15 minutes because sometimes you need to walk that long to let go of your attachments and projections. But the idea is what you're doing is you're physically walking your body vessel in a sacred symbol,
Right.
and it's a sacred act. So you're right, it's ceremonial.
Mm-hmm.
And as you're walking, you're holding your intention and you're being very present, and you're trying not to think linearly about it. So it's like you're holding the intention in your body. And what happens is you will change the energetics of your being by walking your physical body through such a profound symbol, bearing in mind that everything in this realm is created from sacred geometry. You are just a bunch of sacred geometry all stuck together. And the thing is that you're also a particle and a wave simultaneously. This is what we know from physics.
Mm-hmm.
And what you focus your attention is what will change the anatomical structure of your being. And obviously, we have an electromagnetic field around our body. It's invisible to most people, but many energy workers see it.
Mm-hmm.
And that energetic field around you actually holds all of the information pertaining to your entire universe. So everything that you think and feel and see and experience, which is out there, is actually in your biofield.
I
There
love
is
that.
no out there.
That's exquisite.
Yeah. And so that's why it's a reflective universe, because you're just seeing a reflection of your own biofield. And then what you think and feel in response to that, so your choices in response to that, the contrast in this polarity that you choose, then sends the signal out to the biofield again, which changes again and reflects something back to you again, and then you get another choice. And
I
so you're
hear,
constantly,
it's like it's a feedback loop.
it's a
Yeah.
feedback loop. And many people see the loops because it, like, so for example, if you're in a
Yeah.
terribly abusive relationship, you'll see the loops continually,
You'll
because
see the
once
loop.
you get rid of them and you don't heal it, they'll just come around again, blah, blah, blah. You know, we see these things in our relations.
I'm hearing right now that you are a bioneer, that you are a way shower in this space. And I mean, eight's one of my numbers, so I was immediately attracted to you. I've got a lot of eights in my birth date. But could you maybe, for people that don't understand the significance of eight, explain why it's particularly eight and not, say, nine or three?
Yeah, okay. So think about the figure of eight. It's essentially the geometry of perfect balance. And so it's the yin and the yang, it's the masculine and the feminine, it's the light and the dark, the left and the right. It's everything, but in perfect balance. And in the middle of that eight, what you have is a 0 point. Okay. And the 0 point is essentially a portal to oneness. Now, if you were to open the eight, what you would have is you would have a circle with a 0 point in the middle of it. And that is source consciousness. It's the all that is. Now we've chosen so it's one. It's oneness. Right. There's no beginning and no end to the circle. But there's a perfect middle to that. Okay. Now, we have chosen to incarnate into this third dimensional reality in our physical bodies. And think about your body as a vessel, cup, and inside your body is your essence, your soul, your energy, however you want to look at that. But in order to experience this reality, we have to be prepared to experience contrast and polarity. We would not be able to measure what it felt like to be up if we never knew what it felt like to be down. Sad, happy, all of the contrasts. And we're multidimensional beings. We are multisensory beings also. Now, most people are aware of 5 senses on this planet, but we have more than that. And obviously, lots of us here know about the 6th sense, which is our extrasensory perception. But the seventh sense, which I teach, is the void. And then there is
I
the
love the
eighth.
void.
There is the eighth sense. So you have a seventh sense. It's the void. The void is in you.
Mm-hmm.
It's that 0 point portal inside you. And then
Yeah.
you also have your eighth sense.
Mm-hmm.
And your eighth sense, it's really hard to describe, but basically it's your real connection to the earth matrix beyond the illusion of the two false matrices.
That's intriguing.
But I'll go back to that because I'm still describing the symbol. So imagine you were oneness and you wanted to know yourself. Okay, so
Right.
source consciousness wanted to know itself through
Right.
experience.
Mm-hmm.
So it births a
Mm-hmm.
second one. Now there are two.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so
Yep.
it can see itself,
Right. Divine
and
partner.
yeah, it's a divine partner. So it's oneness. It's the next thing, the next number. So it's the next. It's not a number. It is a number, but let's look at it as a geometric form because I'm calling it an 8, but basically it's a geometric form. Okay,
Right.
it is related to 8 and the eighth dimension as well. But oneness wants to experience itself, so it moves into polarity so that it can see itself as a reflection. It wants to look in the mirror and say, I felt sad. That's interesting. Me feeling sad. And it kept splitting off until there were infinite fractalized aspects of itself, and we are all of those. We're the individuated, fractalized aspects of source consciousness having an experience. So, what happens when you walk the 8 is walking around in this soup of difficulty, really, frankly, having experiences which are not always pleasant. And we get kind of out of kilter experiencing the polarity, and in that polarity is linear time, past, present, that's the 0 point, there's present right there, future. So this is also past, future. We need time in this realm to measure our experience. That
Exactly.
day I felt awful, so tomorrow I'm going to attempt to feel this instead.
Right.
Okay. So when you walk the 8, what happens is all of the polarity and contrast and difficulties and challenges, what happens to those as you bring this symbology into your body is you bring yourself into perfect balance, and you are walking every time through a 0 point portal, and you are receiving information through that portal. Because actually what's happening in your body is you're made of matter, which is essentially condensed light frequency information. So what happens is your choice and desire goes out into source consciousness, grabs light frequency information, squishes it back and makes it into matter. And the way you do that is you do that through portals.
That's right.
And so you've got your energy centers that are portals, and every cell in your body is a portal. Your eyes are portals, your nostrils are portals. There's a reason why there's so many round things on you. Every pore of your skin is a portal. And then when you choose to consciously, with a question or something, walk through the portal consciously, so not manifesting from
Emphasis on the word consciously.
Yeah, consciously, present moment conscious awareness. When you walk through that, you consciously pull in information that then changes your energy field. And that's why it's so potent and powerful. And obviously, every time you walk through the 0 point, you're walking through the portal. But every time you walk through the 0 point, you're walking through the point of perfect balance, and you are present.
Right. Right.
Presence.
So it's an entrainment, right? It's a ceremonial. It's like you're doing this dance with energy and becoming more conscious as a result, because you're bringing your body into that presence. Would
Yeah,
that
and it
be
looks like a dance as well.
It feels like a dance when I
It
do it
becomes
with
so when
myself.
people, yeah, when people first start to walk, they just walk. But the idea is what you should do, or what one does later on when one is practiced, is you follow the natural impulses of your body. So you're holding the intention, you're walking, and you'll suddenly feel like going like this, or clapping, or tapping your body, or singing.
That's interesting you say that because it just arises up out of you. You
That's
suddenly
right.
just, you know how children just freely move and we stop doing
Yeah.
that. Why?
Because we care about
So,
what people think.
yeah, well, some of us do. But the eight, so did this come from a specific shamanic practice, or did this awareness just come from within you as
The walking the eight, I was taught by my teacher in my training, and I don't know, and I think nobody really knows where it came from, actually. And I think it's one of those things. So there's actually a lot of controversy that I don't really need to go into because it's a long story. But I was taught through a school that said it had a specific lineage, but actually it turns out it wasn't a specific lineage. It was a conglomerate of different lineages that were repackaged falsely. But that never bothered me because I was never interested in history, and I was having a
the
midlife crisis.
resume?
All I cared
Yeah.
about was these things
Does
worked,
it
and
work?
I was feeling better. And also, as I went into them, I was suddenly like, "Oh, this is from Egypt. I've read about that. This is from here. This is from here." And I could see that the threads that were coming through was like Chinese whispers. They were all coming from everywhere, and I think a lot of people. What I now getting, because when I did the Pam Gregory interview, over 1,000 people commented, and in that 1,000, let me tell you, there were 2 derogatory comments, which is quite an amazing sort of percentage, which is testament to Pam for her community. Wow. But also just beautiful, loving comments. So many people experiencing the power of this. And in those comments, there were so many people who mentioned that they had already spontaneously been doing this practice, or doing and teaching it to other people in all different types of fields. So I had child psychologists teaching children to do it to calm them down, just all kinds of therapists saying, yeah, I got into this, or I've always walked like this when I was stressed, or I doodle like this. And like I said to you, I was always weaving eights through my body. I didn't know to walk between rocks, but I think this information
Serendipity,
was kind of
wasn't it?
always coming.
It
Yeah.
was, I think your interview struck exactly the right time. And I think what you've stepped into is this sense of being aligned with your true time. Because that's what it feels like when I walk the eight. I somehow come into my own version of time that I've chosen, as opposed to being imprinted into a space-time paradigm that isn't mine. And I find that I flow better. I find that my days seem longer, but more bountiful and beautiful. So there's
Yeah.
much more present awareness. And I want to thank you. Everything you've said, I kept smiling when I was looking at you because I just felt this tremendous love from my heart to yours and
Oh,
appreciation.
thank you so
And
much.
I knew that we're singing the same song. We're singing the same song. And
I
that's
think
why
many of
I
us are
wanted to
now. It's a
reach out.
chorus.
It's a chorus and it's getting louder and louder. And it reminds me of the, when they slow the music of the crickets down and you
I
get
was
that
just talking about
beautiful
that yesterday.
heavenly.
Wow, that's amazing, isn't it?
That's what it feels like now on social media. We've kind of occupied it now with our positivity. I think we're taking over. It's beautiful. The
Well, you're
algorithms.
creating your own algorithm. This is the whole thing.
Exactly right. So I want to make sure that people, so I'm obviously going to grab some links from you. I think I'll do that in an email, but so are you available now to receive visitors, or is it to a schedule if they wanted to book
No, it really needs to be to a schedule.
to a schedule?
I'm getting. I've started to teach people to be healers, and that's just chocker fully booked. And so that's kind of almost booked me out until 2026. But I have got.
Well done.
Thank you so much. I've got 2 retreats next year, which people can come and go on. One is called the Divine Weave, lots of walking the eight in that, and there's still places available. And then I have another one where I'm merging art with shamanism. I'm working with an art teacher to get people's creativity, because as we know, the imaginal realm is what actually creates our reality. So I've got
Yeah.
space on those. You can contact me if you want an individual healing. But the rest of the time, the place is not really available because we're so full, and my husband and I desperately need some time off. So yeah,
Well,
I mean,
whoever needs to find you
yeah,
and arrange will do that. We'll just make that
yeah,
available
absolutely.
to them.
But there's loads of
Um,
free stuff on my website, loads.
I've had a good you do. There's a lot of gifts. So please check Sarita's work out. I think she's a true visionary and someone for our time because it's all about embodiment and relationships, and we're all here to grow together. So thank you for that. Thank you for your service to humanity. Blessings
Thank
to you. And
you.
I'm definitely going to pop over for a cup of tea at some point
Yeah, come for a
together.
cuppa.
Absolutely. Thank you, darling. You have a good
Thank
day.
you. And you.
Bye bye.